There's always a delay on Rockfin. Any day now. All right.
I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
All right. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doing something a little bit different tonight. We're going to have a ballot initiatives panel. So I want to welcome everyone on the panel and let them introduce themselves. So I'll go ahead and start with Gavin.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that. I was muted. It's all good. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for the invite to this panel, Sabby. Super excited to talk about ballot measures, really underrated way to get the will of the people implemented into law. Had a lot of, really impactful ballot measures here in Missouri and on the 2022 ballot. A lot of potential, very interesting ballot measures. So super excited to talk about those and hear from all of you comrades here on the panel. So honored to be in your presence. I don't know what that was.
Kira?
We got sound effects here, so awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Kira McCown. I reside in Illinois. I'm super pumped about this conversation as well. The more people who know about actions that they can take in their local states, the better. So super pumped about this conversation. And Sabrina, thank you so much for inviting me.
Rome?
Hey, everybody. I'm Holy Rome. I'm not really big into voting either local or electoral, but I keep my ears to the streets and I know what the people are talking about. So if you know what I'm saying, if this is your path, then just try to listen up, hear us out.
CJ?
Yeah, I'm Jay or CJ, and I'm in California, and just wait to what I have to say about California ballot measures. Just wait. Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Killjoy Meg from the Killjoy Guide, representing.
Uh-oh, Meg, I think you froze. We'll come back to you. Ron?
Yeah.
All right. I am Ron Placone. Thanks for inviting me. Good to see everybody. I, too, am from the progressive utopia where everything is fine, California. So I don't know what Jay's worried about, but everything is really perfect here. It's just nothing's wrong. And yeah, we've really figured everything out. So we're going to try to help the rest of you figure everything out like we did. But here, everything is great. We even solved climate change. You're welcome.
I'll go back to you, Meg.
I'm so sorry. I am doing this on my phone today because my computer's not working. But it's Meg from Florida. Really excited to be here. As many times as I'll hopefully be here while my internet's working.
And most of you guys know I'm in Massachusetts, and we've passed a lot of ballot initiatives here, and some have not been passed, but I can get into all that later. So I want to go ahead and pass the mic to Kira. Kira, can you explain to everyone what exactly are ballot initiatives?
So ballot initiatives are an opportunity for the citizens to actually put forward, state statutes, laws, amend their constitution, or even veto laws that have been put into place by the legislators. And it's basically direct democracy. And that's why it is so important for us to be present to what's going on in our states. And if our states are a ballot initiative state, because once, if you reside in a ballot initiative state, what you then get to do is get involved in a very direct way. So I forgot who said something. Oh, it was Rome. You said something about not really being into electoral politics. And for anybody who really feels like they've been deserted by the two-party system, like yours truly, ballot initiatives are a really great way, like a great route to go. So basically how it works, our citizens will gather a certain amount of signatures. It's all different based on your state, based on your population, all the rules. You can check out what your state does at ballotpedia.org, which is literally where I've gotten so much of my information in regards to ballot initiatives for 2022. They are really thorough, and it's really incredible to have that tool at our fingertips. But you get your signatures, right? And then once those signatures are passed basically by probably the Secretary of State, but again, it differs from state to state, then it ends up on the ballot for that year's elections. So this year, it's not a presidential election, and strategically, a lot of times people won't put ballot initiatives up on presidential election years because the turnout isn't as big. But the research that I've been doing over the past several months is showing me that there are many initiatives that are a possibility right now in several states. So if you find that your state is a ballot initiative state, I invite you to start taking steps to getting involved with that. So that's ballot initiative.
I agree. So some of the things we've passed in Massachusetts through ballot initiatives is, of course, the most popular one is legalizing marijuana. A lot of people on the East Coast were really excited when that happened and all of a sudden wanted to come visit me. So that was really interesting. We've also passed the Right to Repair Act, which that only applies to automobiles, but that was a huge win here. And unfortunately, ranked choice voting was on the ballot in 2020 and that did not pass. And that's because most people I spoke to said they didn't understand the question. And sometimes I think that's done on purpose, I'll be honest with you. But I'm going to share my screen and I want to show you exactly what this looks like in the states that are BI states. And shout out to Roger Meadows, because this is all him, by the way. He sent me this information. He's educated me a lot about ballot initiatives, and he's been asking me to do this panel for a while. So there's two different statutes. One is indirect and one is direct. Indirect is proposed by citizens through initiative petitions. It does not go immediately on the ballot after a successful petition drive. But in this case, you have to collect signatures, which is what Kira was just telling you about. The law that the citizens are proposing must first be submitted to state legislature for consideration. If the state legislature does not agree to adopt the law, then it automatically goes to the ballot for voters to vote on. And the other statute is direct initiative. And this is when proposed amendments by citizens through an initiative goes immediately to the ballot after a successful petition drive. So there are 24 states that are BI states. Alaska, Maine, and Wyoming are indirect BI for state law only. And Mississippi is indirect for state constitutional amendment only. They should pass an amendment that would allow them to pass state law, but do it through direct ballot initiatives. That's something Roger was suggesting. I'm in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is indirect for both state law and for constitutional. And then Idaho is a direct BI state for state law. Florida and Illinois are direct BI for state constitutional amendments only. So that's important to note. And then direct BIs for both Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Oklahoma, Oregon. And then indirect ballot initiative for state law, but direct for state constitutional amendment. Those states are Michigan, Ohio, and Nevada. And you have Utah and Washington that are direct and indirect for BI for state law only. I'm going to pass to the panel, but one thing I do want to add, because I know this question is going to come up, what about states that are not on that list, right? That don't have ballot initiatives? The idea is that when BI states pass legislation, it puts pressure on the surrounding states to implement the same procedure. So for example, when we legalized marijuana in Massachusetts, that put pressure on New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Connecticut, and so forth. But I'm going to start with Ron, because I know, Ron, you may have to leave a little early. I want to get your opinion about ballot initiatives in California, like what's worked, what hasn't worked.
So in preparation for this, I wanted to bring up like two examples of where I felt something really didn't work and where something did work. And also, I feel like these two cases are really sort of like a good template for what everybody faces nationally, even though it is particular to California. So I'll start with the bad news first. The bad news is there was a piece of legislation called Prop 22 on the ballot last election cycle. What Prop 22 did was it gave Uber and Lyft and car sharing services and other similar corporate applications carte blanche to just do what they want when it comes to worker rights. Prior to Prop 22, we had a piece of legislation called AB 5 that happened in California that would have required places like Uber and Lyft to designate their drivers as employees because they are essential to the company. So Prop 22 was Uber and Lyft's way to try to fight that. And there was a lot of corporate propaganda around what this initiative actually was, where they were like, no, this is about workers' rights. This is about them being able to have their own schedule. This is about flexibility. And if you actually looked into it and looked into AB5, it was a bunch of baloney. There's all types of flex work positions for people who are still employees. There's no reason, why they can't treat their workers better when their, CEO is buying multiple houses and they have drivers living out of their cars. So it was a bunch of baloney. But the baloney worked, and Prop 22, Uber and Lyft got their way. And the thing that not only is this really horrible for California, but this is horrible for the rest of the country, too, because Prop 22, in many ways, it was a test. It was a test by Uber and Lyft to see what can we get away with. And if we can get away with this in California, we can get away with it throughout the country, because it took a lot of rights away from workers, too. It made the situation even worse. And they got away with it in California. They tried to pull the same thing off in the UK. And guess what? It failed in the UK. The UK didn't buy the baloney. But here in California, we did. Well, not me personally. I mean, I voted again, but enough people bought it, and it did go through. So that, and the reason I bring that up as a prime example is because the one big thing you face with ballot initiatives, and this has always been the case, is you're going to face a lot of propaganda from very, very powerful entities, be it big pharma, be it the big banks, be it landlords. I mean, hey, we didn't get rent control through in California because there was just enough propaganda by big real estate developers and stuff like that, which they pretty much run California. Jay could speak to that too. So we haven't gotten rent control in this state either, not statewide. We have it in some pockets. But so on to the good story. We had a public bank initiative here in California, and it started very local. It started right here in Los Angeles. And shout out to some of the people involved. I was not directly involved myself, but I tried to help out as much as I could. They just started showing up to city council meetings, and they just wouldn't shut up about a public bank in Los Angeles and how great it would be. And they got the signatures. They did the work. They had an amazing ground game. They got it on the ballot here in Los Angeles. Now, they did lose. It didn't get through. It just missed it. It just missed it. And I think in their case, and just in the case in public banking in general, I don't think there was like a ton of propaganda for them to get through. I mean, there was definitely a good bit, but I think the bigger thing was it's just it's not the easiest messaging in the world why a public bank is beneficial for a community. A lot of just regular people might not really be aware of that, so they're going to see something that might be very confused. You know, the verbiage might be a little bit confusing, and they're like, what? They want us to pay for a bank? Why would I do that? I don't know. In reality, public banks are incredibly beneficial for a community because, you know, the nuts and bolts of it is like all of the kind of revenue a bank generates. If it's a public bank, it goes back into your freaking community and not to a bunch of shareholders for Wells Fargo. So public banks are pretty amazing. The biggest public bank in the country is in North Dakota, and it's been going strong for 100+ years, and everyone who uses it freaking loves it. So public banks are dope. But yeah, so they didn't work out on the ballot here in Los Angeles. But what happened later, because of the movement and how well they did, was some legislation was proposed that ended up passing that paved the way for 10 public banks to come into fruition over the next so many years in the state of California. And that's still moving forward. So not a total direct victory, but still a bit of a victory. And it all just started with a handful of people showing up to city council. So there's, you know, there's a rough story about what we're up against and also a story about what you really can do.
Okay. CJ, do you want to follow after Ron, since both of you are in Cali?
Sure. I mean, it's good to have him set up and give all the technical things, but there's a couple of things I do want to make sure we know about in California. So because California has the largest population, so the threshold is 623,212 is the signatures you must get to get your item on the ballot. And they usually want you to do twice that amount because the people who don't want this to be on the ballot will try to challenge it. So, you know, if a person's name is, you know, has a junior, and then on the ballot, on that little thing, they didn't sign junior, they can challenge that name and have it removed. So things like that, you want to get double the amount typically. And I think this is across any state is typically what they want. But I know in California, if you want a constitutional amendment, then that takes almost 1 million signatures. That's like 3,000 fewer than 3,000 shy of 1 million is what you need. So what I wanted to say about all of that, why I wanted to inject the number is that's prohibitive for somebody like me who's trying to put something on the ballot. That amount of signatures. This is a reason why Ron kind of touched upon it. This is a reason why a lot of ballot measures that get on the ballot in California are backed by big money, and they're not good for us. But there's a whole lot of propaganda behind it, just like Prop 22, where people are voting against their own interests. So it's, you know, just like anything with the electoral process, it's been corrupted. And in California, we're not immune to that. But I'm sure there's some that can be done that's good through ballot measures in California. It's just the amount of signatures you need to get. It's in a certain time frame. I should say that. It's not like you get unlimited amount of time. It's a certain time frame that you get your petition on, and then you get the paperwork where you can go out, and it's probably a little more than a year. So you're roughly, I did the math, 620,000 signatures. That's 1,700 signatures a day. And if you're trying to get twice, because you know some will be challenged, that's 3,500 signatures or 3,400 signatures a day. That's a lot of manpower, woman power, person power to get that done. So that's the reason why I was saying it's very, this is the reason why a lot of the ballot measures in California are backed by big money.
That's a good point, CJ. Rome, I'm going to go to you next. Quick question, really quick. Did Michigan decriminalize marijuana? Did that happen and they take it back? Like, what was the result of that?
Yeah, because they seen how many niggas they was going to have to let out of prison and how much money we was going to actually lose by letting these men out of prison. So what they did was they tweaked it, and Big Pharma got their hands on it. Prison industrial complex got their hands on it, and they gave us the right to smoke, I guess, because right now marijuana did get passed by initiatives, but the thing is, these corporate people have got their hands on it. So now we have dispensaries all over Michigan, but they aren't people owned. They're owned by certain corporations or one or two corporations, even if they have a different name or different color cross on it. It's still owned by different persons. It's like Wendy's or Taco Bell. You know, same shit, same weed. And we just passed a bill to legalize mushrooms, psychedelic, and that took a while. It took a while, and it was really the Upper Michigans that they got this ballot passed because they are the growers here. And see, and if we're going to put ballots on these things, then you have to go to the neighborhoods that's going to benefit the most. Because I was in California fighting against Prop 22 around that time, because I used to work for the people that do the ballots and whatnot. I went to Florida and we fought. Oh, and we tried to get marijuana legalized. That failed. But it costs so much money. It cost them so much money just to even pay me, because I'm getting like $7 a signature. So if they got like 100 people under their camp, and the next station got 200 people under their camp, think about how much money is actually being put into this stuff. So, you know, money is a problem. But the thing is, these initiatives speak to many people, so you never know who you are talking to or coming across, and they might have something up under them and be like, you know what, I was gonna spend this on Las Vegas, here you go. And sometimes you can look up like that, but you got to keep on speaking on it. And in certain areas, grower areas, you're trying to get anything passed as of hemp, you know, because we still got to fight. I think we still got to fight for hemp, for the people to have it, because you know that's the lumber companies coming after us. That's a big pharma, and who else? The motherfucking sugar. It's so much. It's so many. Even Ford is coming after us for this hemp because they see if the people get control of this, what we really can do. You know, it really make them afraid of losing money and people just not needing them anymore. But you know, keep pushing on them. You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose at least 3 times. But as long as you got some money behind you, or at least a platform to push what you guys want, you should be able to get enough eyes on it so people can see through the propaganda.
All right, Gavin, I'm gonna go to you next. What about ballot initiatives in Missouri?
Yeah, so there's definitely been a couple of super important ballot initiatives in the past couple election cycles, one of which obviously led to the medical legalization of cannabis. So that was obviously a huge W for Missouri. And you know, a lot of people would traditionally think of a state like Missouri as just totally backwards and, you know, no interest in anything like that. But we actually pretty resoundingly voted to legalize cannabis medicinally, which is super important. I mean, I'm sitting next to my friend right now who is now able to access cannabis as a medicine for her anxiety. You know, it's not just for degenerates like me that want to get stoned. This is actually a serious serious medicine is what I'm trying to say. So that's super important. And then on the 2022 ballot, we're going to be voting to recreationally legalize, which I have full faith will pass, assuming there's not some, you know, fuckery behind the scenes like we've seen in states like in the District of Columbia, for example. So, you know, no fuckery withstanding, then hopefully we can get that done. Other than that, there's, you know, obviously you guys can tell that's my favorite topic is cannabis, but there are other areas that are important too. Obviously the right to work initiative is something that's, you know, a negative ballot measure, something that we've talked about. You know, there is a lot of corporate funded ballot measures that aren't necessarily in the interest of the people. And as I think CJ was saying, you know, that's partially because it takes so many signatures to get on the ballot. So even though it's a form of direct democracy, the scale is still definitely tilted in favor of the elites, of the corporate class, et cetera. And to be fair, that's probably a reason why legalized cannabis in medicinal form has already been allowed through, so to speak, is because that actually is an issue that does benefit corporate America. You know, I know a lot about the various corporations, pharmaceutical corporations that have their hands in the honeypot here in Missouri. It's obviously not the, you know, people from the communities which have most been affected by the war on drugs who should be getting the head start in that industry. So, you know, that's the downside. There are a couple other important potential ballot measures coming up in 2022 for Missouri. The one I'm most interested in, most hopeful about is the ranked choice voting initiative. I actually know a guy in Missouri who's really a fantastic activist on that front, a huge advocate an educator when it comes to ranked choice voting, and he's doing a lot of the work that I forget who mentioned, but someone said that ranked choice voting failed. I think it was you, Sabby, mentioning how in Massachusetts ranked choice voting had failed because people just they didn't know what it was. It hadn't been properly explained to them, so they were confused. So I know an activist who's out there doing that hard work, trying to educate the people as to why this is so important. And it's specifically important to me as someone that cares about third parties and third party candidates. I remember we talked a couple times on the Vanguard with Green Party candidate Lisa Savage up in Maine. And she was the first Green Party candidate, at least for a congressional election in a while, that it really felt like she had a serious chance to at least make a dent in the election because of the fact that they had ranked choice voting in Maine. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to pull out the win, but it was still a super important election, which is why we focused on her pretty heavily. That election cycle, it really felt like the Greens actually had a chance to get someone in the Senate. So that was super exciting, and I'm really hoping that it passes. Yeah. I'm really hoping it passes here in Missouri too, so that we could potentially run a Green Party candidate or maybe a socialist candidate of some sort here in Missouri. That's something I would be really, really excited about. Something I'd be pretty optimistic about, because as of now, there's very little to no third party electoral presence here in the great state of Missouri. So that's a couple things I have my eyes on. But yeah, it's a super, super important way to enact the will of the people in a more direct and pure fashion.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I will say with the legalization of marijuana, someone mentioned in the chat they couldn't believe it passed in Virginia. I just want to add that was really pushed by Lee Carter, and they took measures out of the original bill that he had. One of the other measures that he had to go along with that was that everyone that's in prison for marijuana would also be released. Of course, they removed that part of it, so it's just something to keep in mind. Meg, what about ballot measures in Florida?
Yeah, so as you mentioned about Florida, we can only put out ballot initiatives that change the Constitution in Florida. We don't have something like that can okay, we're going to have a new state law that allows this. It can only change the Constitution. And of course, a lot of the ballot initiatives that we tend to have usually are related to taxes, like homestead taxes and eliminating taxes and a lot of that. So of course, a lot of that is backed by a lot of the retirees in Florida, because we have a lot of retirees here. So that's a lot of what I see in Florida. Though we have had some really big ones, like for instance, just like in Missouri, we had a ballot initiative that was pushed by a lawyer here in Florida named John Morgan, who actually a lot of people wanted to run. They wanted him to run for governor because he's actually quite progressive, but he's also a big Democratic donor, so I wouldn't really recommend that he run. But he was really big on pushing for marijuana in our state, and he did it twice. The first time it didn't pass. The second time, when it was just medicinal marijuana, it did get through. So we do have medicinal marijuana that is legal here in Florida, so which is great, especially for people who need that as medicine. Another couple ones that passed within the last few years, like the $15 minimum wage, though I hate the way that those laws are written, because we won't actually get a $15 minimum wage until 2026, even though it passed in 2020. We will not get $15. It's going to solely increment over the years, which is just stupid in my mind, how some of these laws are actually written. But further, I think it was also in 2020, they tried to pass a jungle primary, kind of like what is in California. And that one should have passed. It was at 57%. 57% people said yes. But because it's a constitutional amendment, it does not pass unless it crosses the 60% threshold. That's another ridiculous part of how that works here in Florida. It's really stupid in that regard as well. But one that passed a few years ago that is actually related to one that's on the ballot for this year. So a few years ago, they passed a ballot initiative that would allow non-violent offenders and former convicts who were released from jail, would be allowed to get their voting rights back. But the way that they worded it they were able to change the law after it was passed. They have this commission that it went to that said, oh, well, in order to get their voting rights back, they had to pay back all this restitution, which is a poll tax. Let's be real, that is a poll tax they have to pay in order to be able to vote. It went to this commission, and they said, well, technically that's correct, so we're not going to take that out. So now there's a ballot initiative up this year to get rid of that commission. It's a direct democracy initiative in order to get rid of that. So that's one that I'm seeing this year that I am definitely voting for, because we need to get rid of that commission. That way we can actually have our voices be heard and not have some silly commission that nobody voted for decide, oh no, we're going to change that and we're going to allow it to be stripped away.
Well said. Kira, what about Illinois?
Hey there. Yeah, so this year it looks like we do have one initiative up on the board right now, and that is an initiative that creates the right for collective bargaining. Again, in Illinois, much like Florida, we can only do direct initiatives for constitutional amendments. And so I'm eager to see how this goes. I haven't seen a lot of ads and propaganda around this particular initiative yet. 2 years ago in Illinois, we had a fair tax initiative. I don't think it was called that, but it was basically like a progressive tax initiative, because in the state of Illinois, we can't raise taxes on a higher tax bracket unless we lift the taxes for the lower tax brackets as well. So it's a flat tax in Illinois. And it got on the ballot, which we were very excited about. I work with a organization here in Chicago called the People's Lobby, and we were actively going door to door and making phone calls so that that initiative would pass. And you would not believe the amount of money that, well, you probably would, this panel probably would, that flooded into fighting against this particular initiative. And I was of the mind, like, there's no way folks are going to vote against this. There's, it's just so against the vast majority of people's interests. There's just no way. Lo and behold, it did not pass. So the money is real, and it's probably, shocker, right? The thing that really that is pushing against us most in the state of Illinois, and obviously across the nation. So I'm eager to see how the bargaining and unionizing constitutional amendment goes, and I have a strong feeling that we'll start seeing a lot of those ads again soon.
Yeah. The ones that we have coming up in Massachusetts right now, there's just one. There's a couple potential ones, but this one is income tax for education and transportation amendment. It creates a 4% tax on incomes that exceed $1 million for education and transportation purposes. So that would actually be beneficial here. You guys know I talk about these schools all the time, how they need to fund these schools. So we'll see if that one passes this year. But I do want to go back up to Ron. Oh, no, hold on a second. I want to tell you guys how they work first, because I see some of the questions in the chat. How do you do it? How do you do a ballot initiative? So I'm going to show you really quick. Just going to share my screen. And just keep in mind, this is how it pertains to my state. If you want to see how it works in your state, you'd have to look up your state on Ballotpedia. So basically in Massachusetts, it says citizens may propose initiated state statutes and initiated constitutional amendments. The power of the initiative is indirect in Massachusetts, which means the Massachusetts General Court must consider any successful initiative proposals. Once enough valid signatures are submitted, proposed statutory initiatives are presented to the legislature. Statutes may be adopted by the legislature by a majority vote in both houses. If a statute proposed by a valid initiative petition is not adopted, proponents must collect another smaller round of signatures to replace the statute on the ballot. And so here in Massachusetts, for example, see if it shows it here. The signature requirements for measures targeting the 2022 ballot in Massachusetts are as follows. Amendment 80,239, statute 80,239. If it's an add-on, it's a little over 13,000. If it's a veto referendum, it's a little over 40,000. And if it's a veto referendum suspension of law, it's over 53,000. So the signatures, it varies depending on exactly what you're trying to do. But one of the questions that's been coming up with these ballot initiatives too is I've heard that some states have overturned these even after they've passed. And I want to hear from any of you on the panel. Feel free to jump in if this has happened in your state.
It ain't happened in my state, but y'all saw how DC just got fucked over with their marijuana. Like,
Yep.
you know, this isn't a joke. If you write the right bills, we can pry their hands, the really greasy hands off of our fucking necks, little by little. And this is why they would actually like, hold on, what did the bill say? And they go back and like, let's try to tweak this. Let's try to get something in there. But like Meg has said, now you have to go and write another initiative and go at these people again. You got to keep doing it and keep doing it until you want what you need in full. It sucks that you have to do it like this. Yes, it's gonna cost probably millions of dollars to do it. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna take a lot of fucking, like CJ said, a lot of manpower and thousands of people to get this done in a timely manner. But you are speaking on something that damn near everybody wants. This isn't like some bill that's full of word salads. You know what I'm saying? Full of long ass words ain't nobody understand or even trying to hear right now. Like, nigga, get on with it. You want to pass marijuana? You know, let me sign my name. I got to get the fuck to work. You know, but you hitting them quick. You know what I'm saying? The people get to it quick, and then the quicker you get it to the law, the quicker they can fuck it over, and the quicker you can go back and write another one. So good luck, DC.
No, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, I pointed out that when it came to the people who had committed felonies who were able to get their voting rights back, like, it was almost nothing to them to be like, okay, well, we don't actually want that to happen, so here's what you need to do in order for... It's like, where was that in the actual ballot initiative? There was nothing about them having to pay restitution. That was something that they added in after the ballot was already passed. They should have just gotten their voting rights back, but they decided to make that a stipulation after the fact, and then the commission was able to approve that. Or there's also the example in South Dakota, where they actually passed an anti-corruption ballot initiative, and their legislature just said, nope, we're not going to do that. It just overrode it. An anti-corruption ballot initiative. That, like, if that doesn't signal corruption, I don't know what does.
Well,
No. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, this is one of those things where whether it's a ballot initiative or just a piece of proposed legislation or whatever, there's always these dirty tricks. And you always just have to have your ear so close to the ground, especially because when do they try to pull off these dirty tricks? They don't try to pull it off, you know, like on an afternoon where everybody's paying attention and everyone's checking their news for the day. They try to pull it off in the dead of night when no one else is awake, and they'll be like, okay, we're going to do it. I mean, here in California, I can bring up another, for instance. Now, this wasn't a direct ballot initiative, but this happened largely because of a big grassroots movement. You know, we have arguably the best net neutrality policy in the country here in California, because we lost it at the federal level in 2017, but some states have it. And here in California, we do have great net neutrality protections, which is good. When that bill was getting introduced, and it went even a step further than federal net neutrality did, which we were thrilled about, and we were champing at the bits for this thing. at the 11th hour, there was a council member named Miguel Santiago. He kind of went in and he put in all this industry favorable fluff in the bill at the last minute. Fortunately, there was a big groundswell of people that were like, what is going on? And people started screaming. They took it out of the bill and the right bill passed. But this is one of those things. This is a topic that 83% of Americans are in favor of, that pretty much everybody wanted, that had unanimous support in California. And even then, though, they had to do something. They had to do something like, there's going to be some unhappy people at Comcast and Cox and wherever else. So let's see if we can kind of taint this at the last minute and get away with it. They're always going to try to do that no matter what it is, especially when cannabis is involved. And not to backtrack here a little bit, but I do have a question for Rome. Rome, let's say that I maybe have a friend who travels somewhat regularly. Maybe they perform live or something like that, and they might be in Michigan at some point. When you say Upper Michigan grows all the good mushrooms, do you mean UP, or where would this hypothetical friend need to go to get some of these mushrooms? Asking for a friend.
I'm in Detroit.
All right. Okay.
I'm in Detroit. You need to go like, hold on, put this blunt down. You need to go like right here. Like right here. That's where the good shrooms at. There's some good weed right here. There's some good weed right here too. There's some real good weed right here, but that shit coming from California. So if you out there, you already got it.
I'll let my friend know. I'm not sure where they're at, but Detroit, that's all I need. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, and you also, you want to watch how some of these legislators are actually taking away the ability to pass ballot initiatives. If you take a look at the state of Mississippi, which is a ballot initiative state, it turns out they basically just declared this, I think at the tail end of last year, but it turns out that basically for the last
freezing there.
Jackson says,
I think she froze, but I can step in if she froze there. To answer your question, you were asking about if was something repealed or recalled. Well, in a good way, Prop 22 is being challenged and for constitutionality, because these people had the audacity. It's really weird. They had the audacity to put in this law to say that the legislator can't change this. And that may be the thing that ends that upends Prop 22, because you can't put that, you get what I'm saying? Like you can't have you can't cut off future legislators from saying, hey, we don't want this law or we want to change it, because that requires a constitutional amendment. So right now it's being challenged in that way. And it's likely that it's gonna be upended. Like you can't write that particular clause in a thing. And it's just weird. People are wondering, like law experts are wondering, like, why the hell did you put that in there in the first place? Like, this is easy not to put that in there, but they tried to get it past us. So let's see. Fingers crossed. Yeah,
that's why I said I think it was a test. I think they're gonna if we can get away with this in California.
Yes.
It was a test, and that was so heartbreaking that enough people were like, yeah, this is a great idea.
Right. My sister was one of them. And that's when I was like, man, the propaganda was just outrageous. She was one of them that thought, she was like, yeah, I'm seeing a commercial. This is a good thing. We get to keep flexible. And I'm like, and I was just shaking my head. I was like, I don't have the time. Like I wasn't a rush. I'm like, I don't have the time to really explain this.
I was out there with the petitions fighting Prop 22, man. It was so many people in California going against me, yelling at me because they think that I'm trying to harm Uber drivers. And I'm like,
they spent. Hey, Sabby, they spent money. Like that was the most expensive proposition ever in California. They spent money. I can't remember. Was it like a couple of $100,000? A couple of $100 million? I'm sorry, not a couple. I think it was like $200 million they spent to get that approved.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number, but I know it broke records. I mean, everyone was saying,
it was
like,
ridiculous.
They set records.
It was just ridiculous. And guess what? Michelle Obama is it not Michelle Obama, but Kamala Harris's brother or brother-in-law is the one who was involved in charge of all of that whole Proposition 22 and the rollout of trying to get it put on the ballot. He was the one that was overseeing that.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's new
ridiculous.
to me. I didn't realize that. But speaking of spending money, I want to play this clip for you guys. This was about right to repair. And I do want to say there's different ways that this can be applied. In Massachusetts, it applied to automobiles, but there's other right to repair acts as well that can apply to like electronics and things like that. But this goes into the money, how the companies that will come together and spend the money to try to stop these things from happening. So this is from his name is Louis Rossman. I had never heard of him before, but he has a really good take on this. I like to show people the good and the bad that can come from doing something like this. So just check out what he says here. I'm just going to play a little bit of this clip.
How's it going? Today, I would like to talk about some of the positive results of the election. No, not the presidential one where you have two doddering, pandering old fools screaming at each other, making most of the country wonder, how do we end up with these two crappy choices? I mean the election that I'm actually excited about. Question 1 in Massachusetts regarding right to repair. This was something that was exciting to me because unlike most right to repair lobbying, right to repair hearings, where what you show up in front of a bunch of politicians who are half asleep, beg them to see this as an important issue, have 30 people get paraded that say it's important and have them go, meh, next. This is something where normal, everyday people actually have a say in the law. So rather than having to go to senators and Congress people and representatives and so on and so forth, only to be ignored as lobbyists have robust conversations with them afterwards, this is actually on the regular ballot, meaning that normal people like you or I, if you live in Massachusetts, that is, could vote as you're voting, for the senators and Congress people and the president over there. It's going to be right to repair. Yes or no? How do you vote? And as you can see here, it was approved by a landslide. 2.2 million votes in favor, 734,000 votes against. That is an absolute landslide, which is really exciting because as people who've been following my videos for a while may know, they poured a lot of money into these fear-mongering commercials that were playing all the time to try and get people to not vote for it. And if you take a look over here, you'll also see that a lot of companies were pouring in a lot of money against it. So if you look at the, let's say just some of the donors against it, you had General Motors put in 5.4 million, Toyota North America 4.5 million, Ford 4.4 million against, Honda 2.9 million against, Nissan 2.4 million against. There was a Coalition for Safe and Secure Data got $26 million in cash contributions, and they were running garbage commercials like this one that you see below.
So I can't show the commercial because of the copyright issues, but I just wanted to point that out. All the money he said that was poured in, like millions and millions of dollars from different corporations to try to prevent something like this from happening. And I don't know if any of you have right to repair in your state. If so, let me know. But that's really a big deal because that's a plus for small businesses, especially when it comes to the automobile industry. Because some people, depending on what type of car you have, for example, my mom had a Volkswagen. She doesn't anymore, thank goodness. But she could only take her car to the dealership if she needed to get it fixed. She could not take it to a mom and pop mechanic, which would be cheaper. So this was a big deal, and they were keeping data and information from the mom and pop repair shops, and the dealerships would have all of the data. So this was a problem. This was a big deal. So I'm not sure if any of you have right to repair in your state, but let me know.
I mean, we basically the fucking Motor City. If they took that away, so many people would be rioting because that's all we do is fix cars here. Like everybody know how to fix a car here. So if they like, it's bad enough that GM and Ford put so much money. We already know they put so much money against us. They put money against trains, Charlies that we're supposed to have in our neighborhoods by now. They put millions of dollars against it. Taking away that would probably be the straw that breaks the camel's back, especially in the Motor City, because that shit ain't happening. We make the cars. The fuck?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And Gavin, I'm curious. I wanted to ask you. So you're in a red state. I guess Missouri is now a red state. At one point, it was a blue state. I can't keep up with all these things.
Yeah, it's pretty red at this point.
But would you say something like cannabis, for example, legalizing cannabis, that's something that goes across red, blue lines with people?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It absolutely does at this point. And also independent voters too, people that are just nonpartisan, basically feel this way. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why I've just been so, I mean, I'm not honestly that surprised, but it still does shock me that Biden hasn't taken the opportunity to just get the obvious W by legalizing it. I mean, it's an issue that both Republican, Democrat, and independent voters care about. And he claims to have, or he seems to have quite a fetish for bipartisanship. So, I mean, this would be the perfect issue to just go ahead and do it via executive order, take it off the Schedule 1, and effectively legalize it nationwide. So, yeah, it's mind blowing that it's not already, nationally legal in a recreational sense. But yeah, I mean, Missouri voters, as South Dakota voters have done, and many other voters in states that are just as, if not more, red, have already, made that decision. So as we legalize medical, I have no reason to believe that we won't, go forward and legalize recreationally as a state. And even though Missouri is pretty red at this point, it's not as red as your South Dakotas or your Alabamas, for example, which is why we actually do have a somewhat decent Senate candidate named Lucas Coons, who has a chance of winning the election if one of the really vile candidates like Eric Greitens were to win the Republican nomination. It could open up the door for the more populist Democrat Lucas Coons to actually win the Senate seat in Missouri. I have some issues with Lucas, but still, I think that's indicative of the fact that Missouri does have some of its purple vibes tendencies remaining.
Interesting. And the reason why I keep bringing up marijuana is because I feel like that's an issue regardless if someone's conservative or liberal. That's an issue I feel a lot of people can come together on. And I'm going to
I thought you were just bringing it up because it's Saturday night.
No, I don't smoke, Ron.
All right.
I don't. No, I've had some strange experiences. That's why I don't.
Maybe you just haven't met the right strain yet.
Well, this was back.
Sabby just told me I got to smoke outside when I get to Boston.
You you can smoke with the hubs, but I don't. No, undergrad, bad experiences, cheap weed, just bad, just bad. I get paranoid when I smoke. That's why I don't smoke. But I do want to ask. I'm passing it to Ron and to CJ. In California, Steve Cox was trying to explain this to me. This was like last year. But I'm not sure if it's the same anymore now. When it comes to marijuana in California, what is the rule around that? And like, was that a ballot measure? Like, can you grow like weed in California? Is that allowed? Like, what are the rules around that?
Well, I don't know the legal rules, but they certainly do grow. I mean, they certainly do grow, like all up in northern California. That's where all the stuff is grown. So it's all grown in the northern part of Cali. And then what you're gonna notice. So when Rome was here, I took him to all of the unlicensed. So you have licensed and unlicensed dispensaries. And maybe this has to do, and the reason I'm bringing up this is because maybe it may have some parallel version in how weed is growing. Maybe there are licensed places and unlicensed places. So I took the unlicensed places are all the better. It's the better weed you're gonna have, all the better marijuana. It's
I was gonna say you're a good friend.
Yeah,
and
like
friend was here. We went to the unlicensed places. I was like, well, that's because you're a good friend. That's
right. It's like similar in California too. In the hood, I don't know if it's anywhere else, but in Compton, like my mom, she will say, you want some good fruit, you need to go to where all the Mexican immigrants are, the ones that sell the fruit on the corners. They got because the ones that are directly picking it. So they're picking the best fruit that they're going to sell on the corner. So if you want the best watermelon, you want the best whatever, that's where you go. So I'm using an analogy.
We go to I believe they call Bengali, and it's some Indians up here, and that's where I go get my fruit most of the time if I'm not at Whole Foods, some shit like that. But yeah.
But it's similar to the weed places. So the licensed places, all the weed is prepackaged. They can't sell loose like loose weed. It's all prepackaged that they can sell, and then it's taxed and everything. If you're 21, you need a card, like a marijuana card. I'm sorry, if you're 18. If you're 21, you don't require it any longer. So that's kind of, the situation, I guess, in California. You definitely can grow it. I just don't know the standards and all of that, but you definitely can grow it. I know a couple of growers, or I knew a couple of growers, and they were trying to get me to buy into the business before I bought into weed taking off. They wanted me to get into it, and I didn't do it. I wish I did. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I echo what Jay said. I'm not sure if there's like a plant limit or something like that, because really the unofficial law in California at this point is no one gives a shit. I mean, it's pretty much like no one cares. And that is nice. I mean, I do appreciate that. I mean, I've literally just been smoking in the middle of concerts before, and sometimes they've just been like, can you just go in the corner? And it's like, yeah, sure. But outdoor concerts, by the way, but not inside a club or anything.
You can even do that in Missouri, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, it's like no one cares. But I will say this though, like just kind of because we're on the topic, because I actually found this out from a guy who was is signed to the same college agency as me, and he used to give lectures. So back in the day when they had really strict rules on growing, when it first was legalized in like Washington State, and I think Colorado and Washington were the first two. Mm-hmm. And in Washington State, what they were doing is they were really still trying to get people, because it was still early on and the powers that be didn't like it and blah, blah, blah. So they would try to get people for growing too much, for having too many plants. But here's what happened. Sometimes cops love to beat things up. I'm sure we've all heard of such a thing. And so cops would go into these places with all these pot plants, and they'd be like, oh, I can destroy this. Great. I'm going to be able to orgasm later. And they would destroy all the pot plants. Guess what? These growers would get a decent attorney, and that is called tampering evidence. So everybody got off. And another small victory. So if you are a grower and there's ever too much, if you get busted, hope they start destroying your shit, because then you're gonna get off.
Yeah. Michigan has a limit. It depends on how many people you have up under you, because you can become, like, if you go to the dispensary right now, you can become a grower. You can get your card for like $100-something. You can become a grower, but then you add people on up under you. So now you can have 12 plants for him. I can have 12 plants for Sabby, 12 plants for Gavin, Meg, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But once they check you, you better have, you know what I'm saying? Because what they do is they will let you grow wild. They will let you grow how you want, but they build a Fed case on you. So now when the feds come, you know what that means. The feds already got, this is the feds. They already got you. I don't know how the feds work out there, but if the feds got you in Detroit, they already got you. You know what I'm saying? If they come, they already got you. So you got to watch it. If you're out in Michigan, if you want to become a grower, because you got to make sure that you have people up under you, man. Especially in these hard times, people are not going to keep paying to renew, you know what I'm saying, their card. So renew the cards for them and watch what you grow, because they watching you, man.
Yeah, I'll also jump in real quick and just add that I'm looking at the Ballotpedia potential ballot measures for Missouri in 2022, and apparently one of them is to allow medical marijuana patients to grow cannabis for personal use. So I guess I didn't know this, but I guess currently medicinal patients in Missouri don't have that right to grow their own shit, essentially. So yeah, I mean, even though we're in medical state, I didn't even know that, but I guess you can't grow it here. So hopefully, that happens and we get more rights here, because you should be able to grow it. It is just a plant.
Yeah, I think one of the sorry, Sabby. I think one of the possible Missouri ballot initiatives also would grant people the permission to drive while under the influence.
I was about to bring that up too. Yeah, I just saw that. I was like, I mean, I'm pretty good at driving high, so I don't see why not.
I don't see why not either. I mean,
That's a little more controversial, though, I guess.
They
Hey, I
need to
know.
stop tripping on that money, though. It's either this or get rid of bars. Why are bars still allowed if drinking and driving is a law? Where are they going to go? Do they have a Charlie to get these drunk people home? I just don't understand. Like, so it's either one of the two got to go.
Akira, did it pass did you guys pass marijuana legalization in Illinois or decriminalization?
Totally, yeah. It's legal in Illinois. I'm still buying it off the street because I've just been smoking weed for so long in my life that I've just like it's habituated, and I'm still frightened when I have it on me and I'm walking around. I'm like, I need to let go of all of that. But yeah, we're legal as of 2020.
Cool. Eric, I'll take those comments on Rockfin. This is probably Roger Meadows. Yep. Roger, thanks so much for the tips on Rockfin. We are going to have to replace corporations with worker co-ops. Also, we were only able to legalize weed in New York State because of you guys. Good looking out, y'all. Maybe there is something we can do to form some type of multi-state grassroots infrastructure to push our policies in these ballot initiative states. Not just us, but get worker co-ops involved where we can get other orgs involved. Also, thanks for this tip as well. I think a good solution to what Rome said would be a ballot initiative to amend state constitution that say anything voters pass via BI that the state government would like to repeal or alter, they must first ask the voters through a legislative referral ballot proposal if they can alter or repeal, and must put in writing what they would change it to. Meg, SD did it through, South Dakota did it through BI state statute. Now they're doing it this time as a constitutional amendment ballot initiative. Rome, I'm going to pass it to you. Any thoughts about what Roger just suggested?
I mean, shit. His ass should have came on the show. I hate when people do that. They try to show me up. No, man. But no, you're right, man. But see, with these greedy people, the best initiatives that we could try to write and get passed is actually attacking the people in the governments that take money. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to pass initiatives to say, let's get money out of Detroit politics. You know what I'm saying? Politicians can't take money from Ford. They can't take money from GM. You know what I'm saying? That's really going to hit. That's an initiative that's really going to hit them. It's going to be, even if they alter it, it's still going to be a blow to them. And we can just go back and then deliver another one because the message was strong. And now we see how the people react to this. And, you know, we got them out in the right place. What the GM role really is in Detroit, because they play a very big role for our laws, like damn near all of them. So, yeah.
Here's a question for the panel. RBN and panel, how can we effectively select a meaningful ballot initiative policy sign-in while simultaneously getting more recognition for RBN and movement the panel is seeking?
I'm not sure I understand the question quite simultaneously. This is my take. If we're organizing for ballot initiatives, I think that should be changed to just organizing for a general strike. Because what we're all discussing here, even in these ballot initiatives, is that the electoral process have different levels of obstacles. At any point, all of you have said court review. I think that was you, Sabby, that said some kind of review before actually going to law. They have steps. This is all, in my opinion, part of the illusion. You got ballot initiatives. Go do what you want. Really? 624,000 people? How am I doing that in 12 months? Really? So I can't. It's the illusion that I'm able to do something. And then on top of that, when you have these ballots, let's say if we're able to get $27 an hour minimum wage on a California ballot, you don't think that's going to pass? It possibly could not, because you have people who are able to spend hundreds of millions of dollars and lie about the bill. You get what I'm saying? So it's like we're doing all this work Like, just imagine the work they did in California to get Cal Care to that point. Literally, if it's just put up on the floor, we have Medicare for all. So all of that work you did and money you raised, what if that was a general strike that could not have been squashed by the legislator? You get what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if we're going to use our energy to do anything, let's not do it within the realms of electoralism, because they can just stop us.
Well, I just want to add on to that, like when since general strike is always music to my ears, and I also have to go soon, and I want to say thank you all so much for having me. But there are so many things worthy of our attention right now. There's so many problems in this freaking country, and I don't need to tell anyone here that. We all know. But you know what? When you get a general strike and you shut things down, you know what comes along with a general strike is a list of demands. And I say we make that list of demands as long as we freaking can, and we go for the gauntlet. So thank you guys for having me. You can check out my tour dates at romplico.com or anyone who might want to catch me on the road. And thank you all for doing this, and peace, love, and a general strike. See y'all later.
Thanks, Ron.
Good luck in that.
Yeah, as I was telling you guys, like the audience, we want you to hear the pros and the cons. Like there's pros to this, there's cons to this too. Like CJ was just telling you the number of signatures you have to get. And I do want to let everyone know, because I've seen this going around on Twitter. Whole Washington actually just filed for the initiative to get everyone universal health care in Washington state. But I do want to be clear, they filed for the initiative. They're not on the ballot. You still have to get the signatures to get on the ballot. So that's the part that's it's not easy. I don't want you guys to walk away from this thinking that this is something that's easy to do. It's not easy to do, especially getting those signatures. But I just wanted to make sure everyone really understands that.
And signatures
of the process, Sabby, that is the easiest. None of it's easy, but of the process, the easiest part is getting your ballot, because all you have to do is literally write out what the law is, and then you take it to get, kind of like counsel to make sure it's all the legalities and all of that stuff. As long as it passes that, you have it. You have it. And then you just go and get the signatures. So that is the easiest of the steps, but they still have a long ways to go. The signature is the problem. That's the problem, is getting the signatures.
And the signatures in most states that I've seen have to come from a variety of districts as well. So you can't just get signatures in your area, in your city. The signatures have to be distributed among a certain number of districts. So you want to watch that too. And that's actually what I was going to mention before my internet crapped out, which is basically that the state of Mississippi hasn't been able to get an initiative on the ballot, I believe, for the last decade. And they only declared it last year because after the last census, they went from 5 districts down to 4 districts. But the ballot initiative rules still state that they have to get an even distribution of signatures from 5 districts. You don't think you don't think someone didn't notice that?
Right.
Come on. 10 years.
They're
come
all
on.
lawyers. They're
Yeah,
all lawyers.
come
They
on.
know.
Yeah.
They know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no
And a
one's
lot-
out there to help us. That's for damn sure.
Right. And a lot of times it has to be a wet signature. So just keep that in mind.
Dirty. So I have the
Like,
money
for instance, I was
for
just looking it up in Florida. In order to get
Thank
Oh
you,
no
man.
way.
I'm gonna kick your internet butt.
See, they're coming after us now.
Yeah.
There you go.
They fuck with net neutrality. Ain't never been the same.
am I back?
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry. Yeah, so in Florida, you need almost 900,000 signatures to get a ballot initiative. If you want a convention for a constitutional amendment, you need 1.7 million signatures. So that's like just under half the state that you would need for a convention. That's absolute insanity.
This would be a good time to use people money against them because you can go ahead, Meg.
No, you're good. I mean, there's definitely things that I think like for instance, at right to repair, I think that's something that you could easily do in a state like Florida, which is, you know, leaning more red. Like, people don't like the, you know, corporations and the government in their shit. They want to be able to do things on their own. So I think some like right to repair would probably be easy to do. But definitely, like ranked choice voting, I know ranked choice Florida is definitely very much involved in across the state trying to get signatures to get ranked choice voting on the ballot. I have seen right to repair. I've seen websites for right to repair trying to get signatures. So definitely look, whatever cause that you're interested in your state, look to see if anybody's already doing it. Because chances are there's already some kind of organization or website out there already gathering signatures trying to get that thing passed.
Like I know a lot of you guys are like more morally right than Jesus and all that crap. You don't take money from this person and that person, but I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of rich people out there that's willing to help you, and they got a lot of money to dump, especially if you was to do it around tax season, around times where they can write it off and get it back, get it right back. They will give you the money because it won't hurt them, but it can help you guys. So don't be.
Do people know that the Black Panthers took money from white celebrities all the time? That's how they had a lot of their money. Is that they took money from rich white celebrities who were left leaning. They thought they were, you know, they were donating for a just cause, which they were. But if it's good enough for the Black Panthers, it's good enough for us, right?
Yep. I mean, I do it. I don't give a fuck. I'm like, I ain't taking no money from no lobbyists and nothing like that. You know,
Yeah,
no
absolutely.
billionaires, but you know, motherfuckers got more money than me. You know, so everybody rich to me. So, but
I'm going to answer this really quick from Viemter. Sabby, why did you think RCV failed here in Massachusetts? Most people I talked to said they just didn't understand the question. And honestly, if I wasn't engaged in like politics at that time, I wouldn't have understood the question either. So it was really easy just to believe the attack ads that were all over TV and the signs that were posted. Oh no, if you do ranked choice voting, this is going to happen. Like, so people just didn't understand the question. The question was like a paragraph long. I was just like, just ask the question, like yes or no.
Yeah, that's definitely another thing, right? The fact that they put it in like legalese so that people cannot understand what the actual ballot initiative is about. It's absolute bullshit.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, that's why the ground game is so important. We were trying to get ranked choice on the Illinois ballot. We failed to get it on the ballot for this year. We're still working to get it on the 2024 ballot, but we were standing outside of, you know, farmers markets, and, you know, a lot of folks didn't know what ranked choice voting was. And once you explain what it is, they're like, well, that sounds pretty good, you know? And so it's also just a matter of, again, just getting on people's doorsteps, getting on the phone, getting in front of people. And that's really powerful.
Awesome. Well, guys, any last thoughts? I'm going to go right back up to Meg.
No, I mean, I think just if you live in a state that has ballot initiatives, you know, get out there and get involved. This is really the best way. I do agree with Jay that we definitely need to be working on a general strike and getting that list of demands and getting people out in the streets. I think that's the best way that we're going to make change. But if you do believe in the electoral system and getting things done through legislation and getting that on the books, then yeah, get out there and do it. Because that is the best way that we can make our voice heard through the legislative process. Is through ballot initiatives, rather on the local level, if you're able to do it on the local level, or through the state. As far as I know, in Florida, we can only do really things through the state. I don't know. I don't think we can do things on a local level. But, I mean, if you can, do it.
CJ?
Yeah, same sort of thing. Of course, if you have a lot of energy, put most of it behind a general strike or some other direct action. If ballot measures is your thing, there are some good that can come out of it. I think the first passage of marijuana in California was through a ballot measure, and then the further steps of making it more legal was through some other process, I think. But so I mean, it works for some things, and just the key is to reading it and reading it, because the ones that the ballot measures that are not good are the ones that's intentionally worded weird so that it could possibly pass. You know what I mean? They intentionally call it like the freedom something when it's not about that, just so you want to click yes on that. So that's all I got on it.
Kira.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to reemphasize a little bit of what I've already been emphasizing, which is just to get active, kind of what Meg was saying, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in the world of ballot initiatives either. There's so much going on, and there are so many things to do, like Ron had mentioned before, so Google, what is it that's keeping you up at night? What is it that's like, sets your hair on fire? Google, see if there is an organization near you that's actually doing work in that area, and then join them. I've been an organizer in Chicago since 2009. I've lobbied in Springfield. I have canvassed. I have phone banked. I have gotten arrested, in civil disobedience. And it's really not difficult to actually get involved. And if you're scared of being on the streets, if you're scared of protesting, if you're scared of talking to people face to face or over the phone, that's fine. If you're good at writing, graphics, anything like building a website, raising money, if you have money, if you're great at training, right? I do a lot of trainings and stuff. So we need you. We need you. And so, just, find your passion. And if you already know what it is, go find your flock.
Rome.
Yeah. And like everybody's saying, start from the ground. It's always roots up. If you see these organizations out here, if you was to look them up, if you don't trust them, you can always start your own. And one thing I do hate is somebody who can tell me how to do it but don't show me. So if you don't like what you are seeing, if you think they can go at it a better way, or from the left, farther from the left than you than what they are doing, then shit, you do it. It don't take really much. All you got to do is speak up and speak out. Let your voice be known and connect with certain people, man. I'm telling you, they are out there. They might be apolitical. They might not even give a fuck about Biden or Trump, but there's a lot of people out there that really want these small things to pass, especially, if it's going to affect their neighborhood, or if it benefits their neighborhood, I should say. So just get your ass out there. It ain't that hard. And if if you ain't got what it takes to get on the streets, if you're disabled, everybody has a place, everybody has a fight in a revolution. Just find yours, man.
Well said. I do just want to say too, if you're looking for like organizations to be a part of that do some of the things that Rome was talking about, one of the problems I've run into here in Massachusetts, please do your research on those organizations, because it seemed like here, every time I would find one, then later on I realized they were still connected to the Democratic Party in some way, shape, or form. So I'd get in and be like, what is this about? I thought this is about organizing. So one here that I think is really good, and I'll be with them in April, is Massachusetts Peace Action. Jill Stein has done things with them as well. If you're against, if you're anti-war, if you're anti-imperialist, that's a good group to get involved with. So I will be working with them. I think it's the first week of April. So definitely check them out if you're here in Massachusetts. But you got to do your research on these organizations, man, because it's a bummer to get that far in and then be like, yeah, so we're all going to get together and do this thing for Elizabeth Warren. And I'm like, what? So it's, like JB said, there's a lane for everyone. I'll take that last comment on Rockfin, Eric. Thanks so much for these tips as well, Roger. Ron, you say no one cares if you are growing in your yard. I remember a friend of my brother who had a plant that came to maturity buds, was ripe to be picked. He put it out on the front porch, came back, and it was gone. He was quite heated, got his gun and started combing the hood looking for his plant, never found it, by the way. However, so even though it wasn't the cops and you think no one cares. Someone does. What about getting signatures and informing people about ballot initiatives while on a general strike, while you're out there in the street with others? Yes, CJ, definitely when you see freedom, that is a red flag. Thanks, Roger.
Anything patriotic. Anything patriotic.
Yeah, but that is a good point, though. That a general strike is a good time because when everyone is out there fighting for these causes that we are all trying to get, that is a good time. Like whenever we had the March for Medicare for All, Ranked Choice Florida was out there with us and getting signatures for ranked choice voting. Whenever you see anything going on, get the hell out there. Whenever you see any kind of event, that was one thing that whenever I was starting to get involved in the Democratic Party in my county, and obviously I don't anymore, but one of the things I said to them was like, I see the Republican Party out in every single one of these events on the circle. I never see y'all out there. Like the Republican Party is out there all the freaking time talking to people. Where the hell are you? And that should be the truth of the left too. Where the hell are we?
Crying on
we should
Twitter.
be out there. That is true. Yeah.
Like a bitch.
It is true. Rum is right. We have to get off of Twitter sometimes and get out and talk to people. That's the only way we're gonna get shit done.
Yeah, and I know that it feels kind of overwhelming as well. You know, I work in the world of the nervous system, so you know, a lot of times people find themselves in a freeze state because it becomes so overwhelming. So you know, my recommendation in getting involved is just to pick that one thing, and then from there, you know, see how that feels.
Well said. All right, guys, thanks so much for coming on. I hope those of you who are watching, you learned something here tonight. And Roger Meadows, I hope you are very proud of me and Kira for having this discussion. All right, guys, thanks so much. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.